Okay, this transmission comes from a Lincoln Aviator. This is a 2003 Lincoln Aviator. The transmission is a 5R55S or W. They're pretty much the same out of a 4.6 engine. Well, the problem I want you to see is the customer heard a noise in that while he was driving, and he couldn't move after about maybe 2-3 minutes of driving. The noise he heard was like a running your finger on a washboard, a popping noise, and I want to show you exactly what actually happened. If you look at the output shaft, you can see how it's chewed up a little bit right here. And not only that, it has a lot of dust on it, which this is really metal dust. Okay. Now, one thing you can do if you put your vehicle in drive, you'll find out that the transmission is still trying to shift even though the vehicle is not moving. The drive shafts won't be turning, nothing will be moving. But what happened here is the output shaft stripped the splines out in the transfer case, and I'll show you that later. Thing is, in order for you to fix this issue, you have to disassemble this transmission, okay, to get to the output shaft, and you got to replace this output shaft with a good output shaft. Then you have to go to the transfer case and either replace the input shaft in the transfer case or replace the whole transfer case. I'll show you what it looks like later. Again, this is a 5R55S W transmission. Okay, now I'm going to show you on the transfer case what the transfer case looks like and why it you had this problem of no movement. Okay, here's the transfer case. This is what it looks like right here. Now this is in a 2003 Lincoln Aviator. The same problem happens in Ford Explorers. Now, if you look in there, it's hard to see, but the splines in here have been stripped out. But there's a lot of metal dust in there. Let's see if I can get better lighting. Oh, see that dust? I'm looking at it right now. All this is metal dust. That's metal that has been stripped out. As you can see, the teeth is almost not even in there. So as that output shaft in the transmission was turning, the noise he was hearing was the teeth rubbing up against each other. And then at some point he stopped moving because it couldn't turn this input shaft to the transfer case. So again, what you would have to do on this situation, you either change this whole transfer case, or you take this transfer case apart and change this input shaft. Okay, so now this is a problem for people. Again, if you have a noise it's not moving, the way to find out if the transfer case is having the issue, what you do is you put it in gear and you listen to see if the transmission is shifting. If the transmission is shifting and the drive shaft is not turning, there's a good chance that your transfer case, the spline stripped out. Okay, that's the transmission. Again, we can see the roughness on the teeth here, and here's the transfer case. And there's the dust that's piled up inside there, and the splines that's chewed up. Now, here's a good input shaft right here. As you can see, the teeth are very clean. Now, if you put this in here, it will turn it. But the teeth in the transfer case is so worn down, it probably won't turn for long. And then you'll be back at the same boat. So you have to change this, put a new one of these in, or a different one, a good one, and change this or the transfer.
Okay, right now there's a 30 millimeter nut. You need a 30 millimeter socket to take it off. I already took it off, I guess to save a little time, but it could be a 12 point or a 6 point socket. I have a 12 point socket, 30 millimeter. Now you will see that I really didn't have to take it off as I go on with disassembling this unit. That part could have stayed on, but we shall see as I continue. And next you're going to have to end up taking out the Torx heads. They are 40 Torx heads. Now, there also is a tag on there that identifies the transfer case. Well, I guess you don't have to put it in the same spot, but I like to put a little spray paint on the boat in the area so I'll know to put it back in the same spot. I don't want to put it in a spot and it be in the way when we're putting it back inside the vehicle. So, and then you proceed to go ahead and take the 40 millimeter Torx bolts out. Now, why I'm doing this transfer case is one that fits not only the Ford Explorers, it's the Mercury Mountaineer, where I've had this issue before. This is a Lincoln Aviator transfer case, but the transmission in the Lincoln Aviator this year, which is 2003, and also in the Ford Explorers, anywhere like, well, I know this is 2002, 3, 4, pretty much the same transfer case, and they pretty much have the exact same problem, where these lines strip out and they create the dust. The dust is just metal that has been grounded by the teeth not staying together, you know. So you want to get that out. Another thing you want to do when you do change the input shaft and the output shaft, which is in the transfer case, you want to make sure you put some grease inside there. Now this is the result of years of driving, okay, but it still will happen. So now, so you remove all the bolts, put them to the side. Next thing you're going to do is, after removing them, just spread them out nice and neat so you know where everything goes. You're going to get the top half off. If it doesn't come out, like it's not coming up, you're going to have to get a chisel. You might use an air chisel also, but just a regular chisel will do, and you're going to have to loosen up the silicone that has this clamped down pretty tightly. They use some good silicone from the factory. That's one good thing they do. Now, one other thing you should consider, if you hit in between the halves of the transfer case, try to hit the part of the transfer case that will be sitting up towards the cab of the vehicle. Just in case you have too much of a gap, you won't have to be creating a leak. The part that sits down towards the ground, the gap is too big, and you're hitting in there and you're creating a larger space where the case halves doesn't mesh flushly, then you may end up creating a leak. But normally when you go through it with or fill it up with silicone, good silicone, then you'll be okay. Now, okay, I'm taking the top half off. Now, if you can see, that ring gear is still on the transfer case here. The top half of the transfer case. So I didn't really have to take that 30mm bolt out because it's stuck in there. If it wasn't stuck, you would have to, but I didn't have to do that. So you wouldn't have to do it. Okay, now you get a chance to see what's in this transfer case. You got the chain there and planetary there, and it's really simple compared to a transmission. Again, we're going to the input shaft. That's what we got to get out. Okay, we got the case apart. Here's a washer here, and there has a part on it that's a little different. On yours, I'm not sure if this is the result of its normal wear, but what I see here, and I'll show you, the side that is facing up has a little ridge right here. Okay, you can see it protrudes up just a little around the middle, and it stops my thing. But on the opposite side is completely flat. Okay, so there's the ridge right there. This ridge area should face up to you as you're disassembling. That part goes down. Okay, so you set that to the side, remove the planetary set. Okay, and then you remove the sun gear. It has two washers on there. Okay, so I'm looking at the washers, but after examining them closely and the thickness, I determined that both sets of washers are pretty much the same. So they can go either way. One can go on the bottom, one can go on the top. So you can't mix those up. Okay, so just go ahead and put them also to the side. Right now I'm measuring them right now, making sure that you can't get them mixed up. Okay, now you have the chain and the sprockets. Okay. So now with the chain and the sprockets, you can keep them all the same, but one of them on the side over there, which is where the output shaft of the transfer case, you see where it's larger. This has a part that stick up, and on the other side is smaller. So make sure, see how small? You can measure them if you want, but make sure the one with the larger protrusion or ridge is facing up toward you. Okay, set those down to the side. Now here's where the input shaft is. This is what you're getting to. Now you pull the whole input shaft out. See how simple that was? Now on this input shaft, looks like that's that viscous clutch assembly there. Okay, note which way it goes so that you can put it back the same way. This is pretty much a simple fix. It's not too bad. Now you have the input shaft. Now this is the whole part that you're going to get. The part that where the splines were stripped out. And here you go. So by changing this in the transfer case, it'll stop you from paying what, $600, $700, $800 if your transfer case is okay. This shaft here costs about maybe $170, $160. I think aftermarket. If it's dealer shaft, they probably charge you $300. Okay, but in the aftermarket, you can get that shaft for $160, maybe a little less. So this is what you got. Now the next part is just taking the pieces and washing them out if you want to in solvent or kerosene, whatever type of parts washer you have, and then you're going to go back to reassembling this transfer case when you get the new input shaft. Okay, so this is how it looks. Wasn't that simple? Not too complicated. Those are the parts that came out of it.
This is you ending fire, then we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father.